we have no public hearings, no license transactions. We have a presentation tonight on town infrastructure. Oh, Brutus? Maybe 5 minutes. We're going to take a break for a couple minutes, or a little break. Everyone can figure out what it is. Thank you. Jane, enough, sit down.
Hey, I have to talk sometime. I only get a certain amount of time in the meeting.
All right, turn this back on. Yeah. So Brutus, you're up, kid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are we going to end in the comedy portion of the night?
We're getting a little punchy.
A little fun, please. Okay.
Yeah, that one's a little tough to follow up on. But I got a presentation on Public Works. Folks at home know me, I'm Bruce Canareggi, Director of Public Works. I'm also joined tonight by a great team. Start there is Doug Martin, he's the Water and Sewer Superintendent. You got Jake Stanley, he's the Assistant Water and Sewer Superintendent. You got Derek Adams, he's the Environmental Coordinator, kind of oversees stormwater and our trash recycling program. We have Kate Hinckley, our GIS Coordinator. We got Jay Stearns in the back, he's our Fleet Manager. We got Mike Magville, the Town Engineer. We have Carlos Rebello, the Highway and Ground Superintendent. We have Tony Burnetta, the Assistant Highway and Ground Superintendent. In the back, the two brains of the operation would be Kathy Morad. She's the office administrator, runs all the money, make sure we keep in line, so I have to come back and ask for more. And then we have Roseanne Savrowski, who's her assistant. That's my team, and they're excellent. So I was asked to give an overview of the Public Works. I got a lot of slides here to show you where we're at, what we've done, and where we're going. So I'll try to get through it rather quickly. Roadway conditions. We were the first towns, we were looking at our stuff a long time ago. We all talked about asset management plans and stuff like that. So we did a big study back in 2012, and basically our road standards was a 77, a solid C. At the time the council wanted to move things forward. 2019, we were down to 73.5, and this year we did it, now we're down to 70.7, okay? Average expense for road improvements has been steadily declining. 2019, we averaged around $2.5 million a year. This is just for road improvements. 2005, as of right now, is going to be 1.7 million. So you can see we're way below that mark where we need to be just to maintain, never get better. And you got to understand, and I will say it's a lot of different things we do. Everybody has different opinions. Some people say, we get the calls all the time. I mean, one of my favorite stories that a UPS driver called me and say, I can't wait to get to Franklin. You got the best roads ever. Okay? We hear from residents in town, we got some of the worst roads ever. So, I mean, it is an opinion that's out there, but this is a standardized thing that we try to do. Road improvement costs. Our highway operating budget is about $1.3 million. Past average annual funding spreadsheets, like I said, was $2.5 million for road improvements. But the previous funding sources for that was the water main replacement program, which I'll talk about later. The water would contribute some of that because we replace a water main, and then we improve the road after. Obviously, Chapter 90, he's always around $1 million, but with the new standards are up to 1.7. ARPA money, we got a lot of ARPA money for road improvements. Mass Works grant, the biggest one, that'd be Grove Street, that, we redid the whole road, and part of that was, I'm gonna throw it out there, he's like, why is the sidewalk so big? Because that's required, the conductivity to make it that big. And then town capital appropriations. Different times in the budget, there'd be extra money through the capital, and they go ahead and point money to do roads in town. Total spend, like I said, 1.7, plan below. Chapter 90 funding for 2026 is, go figure, 1.7. That's it. We're not getting any money from any other sources the way it's appropriated now was like the ones above. And we need to average $3 million just to get our SRS back to where we were 5 years ago, not including associated drainage, sidewalks, and ADA improvements that I'll show you. Projects cost just of different things. We have 126 miles of sidewalks, 76 are asphalt, 50 are concrete, Sidewalk condition index similar is a 67.62. We have a repair backlog of right now of $18 million, okay? There's an ADA transition plan. We cite all our ADA ramps in town. 1,253 ramps need improvement to meet current standards of $10 million.
Question, I'm not up on the, what 80, you know, the American Disabilities.
American Disabilities Act. So a lot of crosswalks, they change the standards out there. So they have, it's like the wide and the grades, and you have to adjust all these. And a lot of ours don't meet that, so we have to study them. Now, it doesn't mean, this is one of those things, they can't force us to do it as of right now, but we have a plan in place. We have to appropriate some money a year. But there's no time frame on this to get this done. But that number's out there right now, and every year goes by, further things deteriorate. Our parking lots, all around town, we have over 40 acres of parking lot. We have a repair backlog of almost $1 million. And then we looked at the quiet zones. Everybody familiar with what the quiet zone is?
No.
The quiet zone will be the trains coming through town. Like you go through Norfolk, they don't hit the horns, okay? So if they don't hit the horns, we got to do all kinds of road improvements, all kinds of signage and everything else to do that. But that was a study that was done. Previous council looked at it to consider.
So these are signs to tell the train operators not to hit the whistles?
There's a federal compliance
Yes.
statute with it where if you want to get rid of the train whistles, you have to do the infrastructure improvements around the tracks so that people then know the trains are coming because there won't be any of those loud whistles. But people that live near the train tracks complain because they get woken up by the whistles and the horns.
This is not just at crossings, right?
No,
Yes.
it's all the crossings, yeah. it is.
Motors,
It is.
attention to motors and pedestrians.
Right, and then there's like a certain length of where you still need to have crossings and infrastructure to make sure that people know not to go on the tracks because they won't be doing whistles anymore. So it's all those crossings, but eventually you'll get emails from some people complaining about the whistles.
I thank you for saying that, I didn't know what that meant.
Think about a lot more gates and a lot more lights. And then if you live near those crossings, maybe you don't hear anymore, but you have a lot of flashing lights. Because you have to mark it somehow.
Right.
Okay, no, I didn't get it, whatever, okay. $7 million not to have sirens.
But that's not a requirement, that is something that the town
No,
chooses to do. We are not obligated to
Correct.
do this.
We looked into it.
Yeah.
Correct.
It was way too much money.
Right.
The money is just,
I was really surprised, to be honest with you.
to be honest with you, I was shocked at how much money it was gonna cost. We just don't, we don't have it, you know?
Some of us like trains.
I grew up next to a train, I used to woke me up.
Once your kids are grown.
Yeah.
So this is our grounds department. Our operating budget for the grounds is about a little over $1 million. We take care of all the town parks, the sculpture park, the community garden, disc golf, street hockey that we have, tennis and pickleball. Our fields will be all the town and school fields, natural and synthetic turfs we maintain. We do all line painting, grooming, fencing, and irrigation, replacement parts as needed. You know, this has come up with the council, so just so you know, about 60% of this budget, even though it's under general fund, this is to take care of the schools. So if that million is, if you ever want to count, isn't that 600,000 going to the schools? Because we took that over back in 2005 or 6. We took over the grounds, because it is more efficient than the whole scheme of things, having one person do it, but there's still a cost associated with it. Central Motors, once again, 1.5. I always think it's interesting to think about, we have 218 registered vehicles and equipment in town. That's not including lawnmowers, tractors, weed whackers, everything else that we take care of. All the winter stuff we do, the oils, tires, vehicle equipment, fuel, the DEF that we have to use now. You know what DEF is? It's a substance, you have to put in with a diesel fuel to make it more environmentally friendly. And the thing you gotta also remember about with Public Works is we're first responders, so we have to have a backup of supplies down there. You know what I'm saying? Because when the electricity goes out, well, that means we can't go buy stuff. If the gas pumps go out, we have to make sure we're still running, because we have to respond out there. So it's tricky to do a good job with that. Curbside trash and recycling, operating budget is 3.1. We have almost 9,800 curbside customers. We have I think you might have heard this before, we have an extremely low recycling contaminant rate, which means when our stuff is hauled to the plant to be sorted, okay, we don't have a lot of trash in it. The residents of town do a really good job, which means we pay less per ton than other communities don't, that have a lot of trash in there. So that's really good. The residents are doing a great job with that. Contract for disposal and negotiations. You all know where the Wheelabrator plant is? You know when you're driving out Western Mass, that big thing's always throwing off steam? That's where our trash goes to get burned, okay? We're one of the second tier communities came in, so we have a very low rate, but that term's already expired. So this is gonna be a big driver for that because we do it by the tonnage. So that rate can go up, we don't know. It's being negotiated with a bunch of communities. It's one of those things, they kinda need us because we have to give them trash for that plant, okay? But they can also say no, so it's a big balancing act that we're trying to negotiate with. Future waste bans, compost, we're trying to get them more in the composting because they're closing all the landfills in Massachusetts and no one wants a landfill in town. You talk about, they don't want these apartments across the street, I mean, no one wants a new landfill in the town, right? So that's getting very hard and that's getting very expensive because they're all getting filled up. This is one we've talked about quite a bit, the cart replacement, we're way past due on this. So the lifespan of those carts out there that we have are about 10 years. And we're currently at 15 years on it. We have 20,000 barrels of carts, and they're $70 a piece. We looked them up, so that's $1.4 million, okay? They've lasted longer because I think the sun is the hardest thing on them, so a lot of folks take theirs inside, and that's why I think they come up with a 10-year, but they're gonna start deteriorating like anything else rather quickly, so that's something we're gonna look at. We've been spending money upgrading some that, just naturally break, the wheels and stuff like that, but it could be a big number, they all just collapse one day, I don't know. We're past that, but we're getting close.
Bruce, that's paid for by the fee that's in the
Yes.
price budget.
Yeah. Operating budget for the recycling center is around $250,000. This is a very popular program since I started here. 3,800 recycling customers up there, but we're still dealing with recent significant cost increase. Household hazardous waste obviously going up. That rigid plastic, the stuff. We were one of the first communities to take that. We were one of the first communities to take styrofoam through the years. Latex paint. The costs are just going up to get rid of these. And we haven't raised the price up there. I just don't. No one likes to say you get a raise up. It's $35 a sticker. It's a pretty good deal because we've been able to balance those numbers. It's one of those things. The better we do up there, the more stuff we take in, the more it costs. So people like in this town do like to recycle. The landfill, this is like the longest going project. This has been trying to, we could do a whole study on this thing, but that landfill up there is officially not capped. So two things happen up there. If you go by that landfill, what's one thing that's missing that you see in every other landfill you drive around? The stacks. For the gas release up there, we don't have that, it was never capped. That was capped with big fill clay at the time. And then there was another issue up there, if you don't know about it, they kind of filled in the state forest a little. We've got a bunch of trash on that, so we went through a bunch of litigation, and the state doesn't like to give up land once they own it, so JB, we could talk about this forever. But we do own the land now to do the trash, so we're gonna eventually restart the process of figuring out how to officially close it to meet DEP standards, and then also we wanna do a state-of-the-art recycling center up there. It's pretty good what we have, but we wanna try to do something better. But basically, at the end of the day, and these numbers are out there, but basically it costs $350,000 per acre. We have about 10 acres up there. We're looking at $6 to $10 million to close that thing. So that's something else that's coming down. Drinking water, once again, $8 million. Completed project, water main replacement over the last 20 years. We spent about $22.5 million on that. The Grove Street water treatment plant. That's going to be done. We did that back in 2001, spent $12 million on that. The Fail Street water main replacement program, $250K. Okay. Currently approved in funded projects, the Franklin Ridge Booster Station, $2.5 million. That's getting pretty good. That was a grant money that we got for that. Well 7 PFAS removal, $6.5 million. That was SRF loan completion. On the Fisher Street water plant, which is down, that's our largest, oldest producer in town, and we're planning that we're probably going to PFAS, because PFAS is coming anywhere, but that was a $25 million SRF loan, and that'll be completed in 2027. Drinking water, these are unfunded stuff we have right now. The water main replacement, water improvement program renewal, basically the next phase I'd like to do is $12 million. How that all started back in, I say the turn of the century, there was a lot of bad roads in Franklin, and there was a lot of bad water pipe. It was really easy to tie these two together. We could use a little water money, we could use a little this, and we started fixing all our roads, okay? It was very successful. We haven't done that in 3 years. We were doing every year, there's a 5-year appropriation the council approved, and then we pay off the bond and pay it down. But we haven't done that. But the other one is the water tank replacement rehab, $12.5 million. That's the hillside replacement. That's $10 million. The Bald Hill and Forge, that's a rehab inside the tank. And Pleasant Street service area configuration, it's a smaller, it's like a sub thing, that the way it's pumped around and everything else, we'd like to get rid of that and improve that $7 million. And then PFAS potential, I have no idea, but I throw out 50 million there because it's just where it's gonna have to go. I thought this was a great picture I'd throw in here. So our tank out there, when I started, it was the 7th oldest in the country. What are we at now? Oh, we're number 1. So we have and if you go, this is an old map. You can actually see in 1888.
Where's that?
Hillside tank.
Yeah.
We're the oldest cast iron tank still in the country that we maintain, but we're using. It's part of our system.
Oldest library, oldest water tank.
Yeah.
We're number 1.
I know. I don't like being number 1 in this one, I gotta tell you.
First of many.
Yeah. So the water line improvement 5-year plan, so Pine Street, I know everybody what looks at social media and stuff like, we know about it. It's been on our list forever, and we're trying to improve that. And I think we have a plan this year to get going on that specific on Pine Street. A lot of breaks up there. It's AC pipe. I could go on for about that. Okay. We're also looking at Partridge intersection of Maple Street, Park Road, Hillside, Moore, Pinehurst, that area, Pleasant Hill Road, Acorn Terrace, and then Meadow Parkway. So those are ones, but to do all that is about $12 million to replace the water line.
And when we replace the water line, we do the road.
Yes.
And when we place the road, we're not gonna make it higher so that James floods more, right?
No, we'll make sure this drainage works on that.
Because the other 5 neighbors will thank you too.
Okay. So, and then they just got the list down here, Lincoln Street, Town Line, Pleasant Street. But we have a plan for all this stuff. It's just a funding source. We know we compete with other things. Sewer, our operating budget, $4.5 million. Obviously, the Beaver Street Interceptor, that's the biggest infrastructure job this town has ever thought about doing. It's $33 million. It's pretty much on schedule. We're making there. We're saving some money out there, whatever. I&I lining. That's when we actually we have a lot of old, what's called clay pipe. When sewers first put in Franklin, downtown area, we put a liner inside there and we seal it up. 2 good things about that: it keeps groundwater from going in, and actually do little structural improvements. Because you think of I always look at the groundwater we don't take from the ground is good for us because we don't want to go in the sewer because we own basically 80% of the plant, rough numbers, and that means we have to pay to treat it because it goes to the plant. Also, we get all our drinking water from the ground. So we don't be taking groundwater out, we want to keep it in Franklin. So that's part of why this is improvement. We've done phase 10, we're looking at phase 13, it's $2 million. If you don't know, we have 23 lift stations in town. Basically, lift station, it goes to a low area, you pump it up to certain, and then it's taken by gravity. We've done an asset management plan to prioritize improvements. We've got a lot of grant funding for this. Upgrade existing control systems, $250K. We've got energy gap improvements, and then we get a lot of grants. They give a lot of grants for sewer, which is good. I'm trying to go through these real fast for you guys. So I want to show you this. You can see it. So this shows you when we go inspect the pipes. You can see that's groundwater shooting into the pipe. So that water's clean water, but it ends up going to the plant, has to be treated because it's mixed with poopies. So I always like to say when we're talking about sewer. So that's what happens. And the other thing we have to deal with is what we call is fog, which is fat, oil, and greases, which solidifies, and we do a lot of investigation with that too. As you can see going down the pipe here, you start seeing all this crud on the inside, and see all this floating stuff. That's fat oil and greases. So they stick inside the pipe, it's almost like a concrete. And believe it or not, folks know that, like bacon, everybody knows you don't put bacon grease down there where the others, okay? The biggest one is actually soaps, if you think about it. A lot of soaps, you just, it's so thick, you water it, cools down, it gets very hard.
So Brutus, when you see like that water coming in,
Yes.
is that when you schedule to?
We put a liner inside the pipe.
lining room?
Mayday.
Alright, we got it. Yeah, so we line the inside of the pipe, it's called in citro, and they put it in there, it expands out, it heats, people see the steam, those trucks working through town, then they cut out everything. Stormwater, this is a whole nother thing. Our operating budget is stormwater, and basically, to say it real fast, I think this is ridiculous. We all remember, Franklin, we sued EPA. You know that, right?
Yeah,
We're the town that did.
Yeah, you went down.
And we won. We got a lot of concessions through it. It's because it's so freaking expensive. It really is, and I always don't see the value in it. But right now, I mean, just put in perspective, the phosphorus control plan they set up, they want us to take 2,000 pounds less of phosphorus putting in a Charles River. That's what basically it comes down to. Just the 5-year cost on this alone is $30 million. We're not even close to that. We're getting to a point where we're gonna have to ask for an extension to go forward because we're not gonna meet the permits, and that was part of what when we sued EPA. But to give you a rough idea, basically right now it's $60.30, per the average unit household, right? We'd have to go to $350, just to meet what they wanna do up there. And I think we all know that's kind of ridiculous and we can't. And that's not just for us, it's for any town. But that's one of the things looking at the permit. So basically it's more frequent street sweeping, catch basin, maintain or improve our infrastructure, detention bases, new infrastructure, and use science to our advantage. GIS I put in there because this is a very important tool. I mean, it's what we do. In the past, obviously it's very expensive, it's led to continuity, long response time for updates, and always out of date, okay? All the stuff that we try to do, we really need the GIS to tie everything together. Presently, we have real-time data. Kate does a great job with that. We have immediate response for updates, and we're efficient, allow collaboration internally and externally. This is a slide that was I found out there, but this sounds kind of funny, but I think it was back in, 2008, 2009. The town actually had extra money, after the thing was all done and we're in May. So they had all the department heads come in and explain, like, why do you need it? The police came in, we didn't have police officers, more safety gear, fire department, school department, whatever it was. So I came in here and I thought about it, and I want you to think about this. Public Works, any other department, cannot do their job without us. Okay, you want to put a fire out? You need water. You want to drive down the road? We got to take care of the roads. The kids want to play in the parks? You want to open a school? You need Public Works, just like everybody else. And I begged for different things, and I got nothing, but that's okay, that's the truth. But Public Works, we touch everything in town, and you've heard me say some of the jokes, no one ever calls and say, hey, gee, my drinking water's great today, I flush my toilet. Because you take everything we do for granted, unlike different things that happen immediately. So it's a long-term type thing. So additional challenges, we've talked about this before, I think it's everywhere. In any department, it's shortage of workers out there. Outsourcing, getting the right thing, doing that balance of what we want to do internally and externally. Snowplow contractors, you heard about that. We talk about snow plowing, the budget that we have about $1.4 million, somewhere between $500,000 and $400,000, depending on the normal year. We have a normal year. That's the schools, because we took over all the schools. When I first got here, they had their own contract for snow removal, and we're looking to go back to that because of organizational type wise. But I'm just saying that's another part of my budget that goes to the school department, just like a lot of departments do. Global warming, flooding, extreme events. We've been talking about blue in the face. So you believe it, don't believe in it, but we have to react towards it. And it's creating different standards out there, whether it's flooding or the extreme events. And then construction costs, they ain't going down, they're going up. So I want to give you some good stuff. You know, so we've reconstructed over 80 miles of roadway in town since I've been here. That's a lot of miles, okay? That's, when I'm talking about, that's not just the squiggly lines and stuff like that. That's actually reconstructing, grinding the roads, you know, putting a new layer on top of it. We've rehabilitated and constructed 33 miles of sidewalks. We established a proactive maintenance program to extend the life expected roadway services from 20 to 40 years. I can show you different slides. If you don't do nothing, a roadway is going to fail, okay, within 20 years, okay? Well, we have a great program in town now. We're extending the life expectancy out. You know, we start with the crack seal, we do the chip seal, we do the mill and overlay before we get to construction. And we have a pretty good plan with that. Good stuff about parks and grounds. We replaced 2 turf grass fields. We create and build 2 parks. I mean, not a lot of towns are all building parks. You know, we did Delt Cart and we did Sculpture Park. We built a dog park. We created a community garden, which it's so unusual to me because everybody has a lot of space around here, but people love that community garden. It's worked out really good. And I think you folks that know that have been in town for a long time, I love our town common. I love what we've done up there with the veterans and stuff like that. It's a beautiful common. And I think we get a lot of recognition with it. These kids come out really, take a lot of time. I get a little emotional. Good stuff, waterworks. We replaced 45 miles of pipe in the ground. And that's a lot because we had a lot of problems. We rehabilitated, rebuilt, improved 3 major water treatment plants. We reduced our average daily flow from over 70 gallons, you know, per person per day to 46 in 2014. Those are like Boston numbers. What you got to take into consideration with that is the fact is there's not a lot of big lawns. That's all averaged into the average daily use. So that we've been able to do that because we've tightened our system up. On account for water, if you think about this, from 15% to 6.5%, the water we take out of the ground, by the time we have to measure all the water we take out, by the time it's delivered to everybody's houses, okay, we lost 15% of that. Well, there's a lot of energy pulling that out. There's a lot of treatment that goes on because the pipes were leaking, okay? It's not leaking anymore. We've tightened it up. You know, it actually saves money. Sewer, we lined, like I said, 14 miles of sewer main. We've lined and sealed over 500 manholes. Those manholes would leak water in. And we've reduced our average daily flow to the Charles River conclusion by 1.2 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water that we're not sending over to that plant, which in course, we're not treating it, so it costs us money. This is one thing obviously about the comparisons. This is put out by one of the engineering firms. You can put in any town on this site. So you look at bill comparison, because we hear all the time, like our bills are going up and everything else. If you look at our water and sewer bills, we're kind of dead center. Okay, we're the average. We really are. If you look at, this is the first chart up on the left-hand side. So we're kind of in the middle. Conservation signal, we're a little better, okay, because we're conserving water. Cost recovery, we're not that great because we're paying off a lot of debt service for the improvements that we've made. And then this is a very interesting one, the median affordability. What they look at is not only the cost of the water and sewer, they look at the average income of the town. You follow me? And you can see we're very low on that scale. What I mean by that is when we looked at different things is, yes, our water rates might be up here, but the average income, I'm not saying everybody, but the average income for Franklin's higher than it might be in Palmer, Mass. You follow me? They're paying the same rates. So we're actually very, very good on that. So, it's like anything else. It's just like you're paying for it. You don't like to pay for it. You want to pay nothing. But there is a cost associated. But I think Franklin shows that we're in a pretty good stead compared to other communities. Plan and projects. So this is the funded cost. We've obviously done the Franklin Ridge Booster Station. That was a $3.2 million grant. The well PFAS removal, 6.5 SRF loans. You guys all know what SRF loans are?
No.
So when you take a loan out, if you get the SRF, you get a reduced or no interest on that money borrowed.
State revolving fund.
State revolving.
It's an acronym. Explain the acronym.
So, state revolving.
It's a state low interest loan program, and you get a loan, and then we are a housing choice community, so we actually get a lower interest rate beyond that.
Kind of like heat bulbs, for instance.
Yes, exactly.
And it saves a lot of money. So these, and then you got the Fisher Street, the Beaver Street interceptor, we got all, so we're saving like millions and millions of dollars. The thing right now is most of the state revolving fund money is going towards PFAS issues. Okay, so they've kind of changed the priority. So I can't say we're gonna get those. We've been applying for one, right, Del?
Yeah, we've been applying for the hillside tanks for, since I've been here, like 4 years now. But they hasn't scored high enough because PFAS projects, lead service line projects are all priority projects. And the capacity from the state revolving fund just isn't there to fund everything. So there's a really big backlog and hole or need for infrastructure replacement that's outside of just PFAS.
So I got a question. God forbid something happens to the tank up on Hillside. What the hell are we gonna do?
It's a good question.
No, you just don't want to give me the answer.
Yeah.
Because the answer's bad.
The answer is really bad. Yeah, and that's not something we want to see. So obviously, like Bruce says, that map doesn't lie, right? That was the original water storage tank and kind of tank from 1888. The tank next to it was from 1928. Yeah, they have both in desperate need of replacement.
I understand. Just kind of curious what happens.
Well, you know what, you'd have to come up with a plan, there'd be a lot of pumping out there, which costs a lot of money. The best example they give you what happened down in Plymouth with their sewer,
Oh my God.
and that cost, you know, they had, their population actually used the sewer was only like 10,000. But that job was what, 60-something million by the end of it?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, this is all clean water.
Yeah.
Clean water.
Yeah. But
There's always a
obviously, you
solution,
have
but if it's not-
1.7 million gallons of water out there that would just go out. It's not the tank itself that concerns me, it's the foundation. It's an old Fieldstone foundation. We've capped it, and it's in decent shape now. But you know, all we need is a good earthquake or something. That, it's not built for earthquakes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think
No, I'm
about
just
that
kind of
these
curious.
days.
Yeah. Inside.
So this is what we, basically 64 million barely funded, parking lot improvements, there's some money out there. Roadway improvements, we're looking at $39 million. Sidewalk improvements, $19 million. Turf fields, carpet fields, looking at 5.4 million. We do have a stabilization fund that, we put money into. And then roadway improvements, like the 39 million, but we're only getting 1.7, in chapter 90 because there's no additional appropriations from the town.
So Bruce, when you say this is, on the other slide too, funded and barely funded, roadway improvements at 39 million, that's not funded, right?
That's why I say barely funded. There is money, so I can tell you that right now, we're gonna at least put $1.7 million into that, basically projected chapter 90 money.
Right.
But stuff keeps deteriorating, and we used to have supplemental money. So there is money in it, but there's not money to make the improvements as required.
So, best case means like 39 million.
Not now, but over a period of time.
Okay.
Then we get completely unfunded.
What's
There's
that?
nothing out here for $85 million.
Yeah.
That'd be the stormwater, okay, that's our ADA transition plan. Closing the landfill, recycling center, the quiet zones, water main replacement road improvement that we identified as 12, water tank improvement, another 12, and Pleasant Street service area improvements, that, get everything, so we don't have that problem where it's isolated with those tanks, is, 5.5. So these are ones that been working in town. These are my 5 biggest threats up there right now. And obviously it's the roadways, because without continuing funding supplemental, we're just gonna slowly go downhill. Okay, we're gonna be at a D, and road costs are gonna go up. I think I explained to you, like, we're already starting talking about plan, which we're gonna crack, so chip seal, because we're trying to extend that, but we still need to do more than that. And if we don't keep doing that stuff, it's just gonna get worse and worse, and then we really have bad roads. Water lines, these are some good pictures. Iron manganese comes out, but these are what we take out right at the plants, and you can see how much iron and manganese we have in the system. When I first got here in pre-205, there was on average, 45 water main breaks a year, which is a lot. It's almost like once a week. like Pine Street blew up last week. That was happening all the time. And we're averaging about 4 a year now, and most of them are not the big catastrophic pipe breaking. It's the service line blowing off the side. This is one that absolutely, I'll tell you through experience, it drives me, is that we have, it's called a saddle that goes on the side, and it's wrapped around stainless steel. And they, they paid extra for the stainless steel to make this last. You know what they put on the backhand side? A regular bolt. So the bolt pops. You could reuse that saddle again. It looks almost brand new, but the bolt in the back blows and it blows out the side of the pipe. So they didn't buy a stainless steel bolt.
Stainless steel bolt.
Yeah. But that's one of the things. And then, so without continued water replacement, brakes increase, water quality, different things, iron manganese. And then the galvanized pipes that a lot of the older places have to come in. The federal government's talking about that, about how they're gonna do it, but there's actually no funding for it right now.
Just the road work, just so everyone, I don't know if you guys all remember, I don't know if it was here, we did have an override. We put an override out, I forget what year it was.
2014 for 1.5 million.
One, yeah, and it got voted down bad, real bad. Like 8 to 1, right? Something like
I don't know if it was
that.
that bad.
No, it wasn't that bad.
It was like 60-40.
Yeah.
64, it was bad though.
Much worse than the the last 2 years,
Yeah.
for sure.
The story I always tell about that is that, I was talking to Carlos about it. We had spent a lot of time coming up with, to try to sell it. And we tried to look at a different town and, touch different places so everybody got a little bit of love, because it's a political type thing. And I remember Carlos going to me, he's like, boss, didn't happen, what are we gonna do? I said, well, the 5-year plan's now a 20-year plan. I don't have to tell you, it's the same road, they're just gonna keep going. It's just gonna take longer to get done.
Become more expensive.
Oh,
And
was
more
it?
expensive.
No. 8 to 3.
8 to 3?
Was that right?
Whatever fraction that
Yeah.
is. Steve just pulled up.
So this one, stormwater and compliance with the NIPD's permit, and so non-compliance could result in a, consent decree. And that's what happened in Quincy. So because they didn't meet their stormwater, they got a $150,000 fine, and then they were told they have to spend $100 million by 2034. So Quincy, they're about 100,000 people, so they're like 3 times as big as that. They're basically saying, you have to spend $30 million to get this done. If you want to put it in perspective, you don't want to be in a consent decree. So, but that could happen. But then again, who knows what's going on with EPA or how much they're going to enforce politically right now.
Other towns also have the same problems.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Everybody
absolutely,
does.
yeah. Landfill recycling center, once again, timely action avoids, we don't know what's gonna happen. State imposed costs on that, but we gotta do something with the landfill. It's been out there for 20+ years. So this was a comment by a previous councilor, this is the most existential threat facing Franklin. These improvements, these long-term things and costs associated with them. So me or my staff can hopefully answer any questions. I try to go through this really fast.
You did good, Dave. We'll start the same way. Councilor Malloy?
I had some questions just in terms of where some of the items are in our budget. A lot of this stuff looks like it adds up and runs through enterprise funds, but then there were other questions or other comments I probably should have asked you as we were going along. Not that big a deal, I think I can kind of figure it out. So I think I'm okay for right now. We can leave that thing. But I guess just with the enterprise funds generally, it looks like sewer, water, stormwater, all of that. And maybe this is more for Jamie, just generally. Our realization on the enterprise funds, I mean, are we collecting? I'm sure it's not 100% of what those enterprise funds cost us, but how close to that number are we getting?
I would have to defer to the treasurer collector, but both in this question just came up the other day, so I'm asking this. I would say of all our enterprise funds, there's a 14%, levy that goes on unpaid bills for taxes and those things. We don't make very much money on that interest. The collection rate is extraordinarily high on water, sewer, and trash bills and taxes. I mean, I hate to say 99%, but it's a fraction of what we put out there. People are very, very good with complying with it. Very, very high.
But just in terms of.
In terms of it's not a problem that's escalated up to me where we have to come to you and do something to try to incentivize people paying. You know, in my 10+ years here, it's never been a problem where anyone's come to me from the treasurer's office, or I don't think for you guys either.
There's only been one house we turned water off.
Yeah.
And that was like for years, because they weren't paying nothing, and then the
Right.
bank had, so it was more
Yeah,
like
it was-
taking.
Every once in a while, there's like a foreclosure tax title problem, but those are pretty rare.
I guess my question is more broad in terms of like water. You know, I think for this current budget, it's like $8.1 million. But that includes salary expenses, and principal and interest. Are we getting close to that 8.1 million in receipts as people are paying their bills?
It's a great, okay, I see what you're saying. We're over that. And so the retained earnings are money that wasn't budgeted, wasn't used. Retained earnings is just like free cash. But I also want to caution, even in a year of retained earnings, and I think in the capital plan that you'll see, which is already out there for FinCom, but will be in the packet on February 11th, and it can ebb and flow, right? I mean, if it's a dry year and fewer people are watering, then there's less money.
Well, more.
That comes in,
Dry years,
or
we
the-
make more
Or
money.
the inverse, right? I mean, so it's based on usage. And we're essentially required through our Water Management Act permit to incentivize charging on a tiered system where the high users, particularly basically for irrigation pools, is really what we're talking about here. For large lots, they're paying at a higher rate because they're consuming a lot more of water. And that's a unique feature of Franklin because we're part of the triadic approach, which is an inside joke, but because we're a 100% groundwater fed community. Right? No MWRA emergency, there's no other source, so we're a pure groundwater community. And because we're a pure groundwater community,
And the
that's
largest.
why we have the Water Conservation Day on Wednesdays. You know, people consider it a ban, but it's not a ban. And that's also why we have a tiered system for infrastructure. So some years we have a high retained earnings and we're able to put more into capital. And some years we're not. The last thing I'll say on the, in terms of collecting the money, you know, we used to pay off our water main program with cash every year. We would actually never borrow the money. We would never pay interest, which was actually a fiscally prudent thing to do because we hate paying interest. But since the pandemic and all that federal stimulus money that came in, that federal stimulus money basically paid for a lot of that 5-year water main plan. But it kind of got all off cycle with the supply chain issues, the cost increases. And at some point on the goals, there'll probably be a goal of trying to get back into a rhythm of a 5-year water main plan so that residents can see what's coming up in their neighborhood. Because as Brutus said, once they know the water main is coming, then they know the road.
There's a new road.
There's a new road, right? And that was always the.
That was a great way to do it, yeah.
We're always meeting those benchmarks in terms of receipts. We've generally been moderate to conservative with our budgetary projections for that reason, because if you do go into a drought year, especially a level 3 where the state mandates a whole bunch of stuff, you know, we don't want to be in any deficits. So, and we tried over the years to build up the reserve a little bit. It used to be $1 million, but now we try to save 1.5 million. And that's also important to have in terms of the collections, because like for the residents that live over off Prospect Street, I know Councilor Blank would know this. Was it last year or 2 years ago? We had a literal emergency that we had to go in.
Right near his house.
It was right near his house, right?
Right near
Yeah.
his house.
I was going to say it was
Yeah.
a severe problem. We had to close the road, and we had to spend what was it, like $300,000 or $400,000 in an emergency road culvert.
Culvert, yeah.
So,
You had to do the
so
culvert,
when
right?
receipts come in, it's not just the budget. We're also trying to make sure you have that cushion for those emergency projects.
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
Yeah, you good, Councilman?
All set, thank you.
I don't have a lot, just 2 comments. I wanted to just highlight 2 of the slides that you shared. You know, first off, appreciate the presentation. Had a chance to look at it over the weekend. Really helpful, really informative. Is in line with a lot of what I've seen and kind of what I expected. 2 slides I do want to just draw people's attention to. One is the bubble slide. You know, the public works and how it touches and impacts so many parts of this community and how important it is, you know, for it to do that. I think that's one, and I think your instinct is right in creating that, but that's one that really should get more light, more attention, because of just the impact it has, right? So,
Thank you.
that's one. The other slide I want to come back to that I think is really helpful, just informative, and speaks to some of the questions that I think people have. They just and don't have a ton of visibility in, is your one with the radio dials, you know, and the map, the select residential bill and the monthly consumption amount, just showing where Franklin sits. You know, people wonder, where are my, you know, what am I spending money on? Where's my money going? This slide, I don't know if there's a link to it, but it's really, really informative and helpful. It'd be wonderful if this was something that you know, people, you could see as it gets updated, and people could kind of point to when they have questions or just you know, trying to figure out.
Is it open?
What's happening?
Yeah, it's open. I can add a link on our water rate.
I think that would be fantastic. That was suggested as a link on the.
And there's so many different ways. I mean, data's there, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways you can slice and dice it. So this one, you can see, it's just, we're looking at, we're comparing against utilities that have a similar amount of accounts. So anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 accounts. Franklin has almost 10,000.
So my suggestion with it is because there's so many different ways you can compare it, it's going to be really difficult for someone to kind of go in and have you know, and know that they're looking at the right comparison. So kind of seeing that with, hey, this is the standard that we look at for Franklin because it's the best fit. There are other, you know, I'm letting people know that there are other ways to manipulate so they can look too, but yeah, I'm a believer that more information is better than less in general, and people can educate themselves as long as they're willing to go do the work, but having this out there for them is a really healthy and helpful snapshot as they ask, as they wonder, where's my money going?
Yep, no, definitely, that's a good point we can add to the website.
You good? Caroline?
All right, I just a couple comments and then probably some questions. But so first of all, thank you for this. This is the kind of presentation that I wish we could put every single person in Franklin into the room to listen to, because you know we are all affected by the roads and by the water and by our sewer system. And if they go, we're all in trouble. And we all need to be aware of, you know, if we're not giving the towns money that they need, that we need to fix these issues, then we're all going to be in trouble down the road. So thank you very much for this. This is what I want to be, you know, very visual, or very out there for the town to see. But I do have a couple of questions. In the meantime, while we don't have the money to fix all of these things, I know you said that you don't want to raise the fees of like the recycling centers from $35 forever. You know, if we raised it to $50, that'd be less than $1 a week for people to take their trash. I mean, that seems like a lot, but it also goes, that feels like it would go a long way to, you know, offsetting the operating costs of the recycling center. And if that's already figured out, then we could put a little bit away for, I mean, it would just be a little bit, put a little bit away each year towards the cost of capping the old landfill, or, you know, figuring that out, something like that. I know no one likes to raise fees, but it feels like that would be a way to tackle it just a little bit.
One thing I will tell you, when I got here, the average trash, they charge residents $400 a year. This was 23 years ago. And we were down below 200 at one time because of innovation, because of getting grants and everything else. So when people always say everything goes up, I can tell you trash hasn't, and it really hasn't. But you know, I got to give the residents credit for that, for doing it, because they really took it under the wing. And you know, we were one of the, you know, everybody does a commingled mix now, recycling everything, but we were, I think, the second or third town to try it, and there was pushback against it because you know how we're going to do it, but. It has saved the town or residents, the users, I should say, a lot of money. So, and that's kind of where we're at now. We don't like to raise I really don't, but, we have to maintain it, if that's what we can do.
Carol, if I just jump in with a question, because we'll save a question later, because it's on the same topic, but does Beaver Street pay for itself?
Last year it did.
Okay.
Just recycling center, don't think the whole trash,
Not the whole.
but the recycling center, yes.
Yes, the recycling center, because we did, and you know, I was part of the trash committee, recycling committee, we made recommendations. One of the things was that Beaver Street going forward should always be a break even. So that if the fees go up at Beaver Street, I mean, if the cost goes up at Beaver Street, then the fee should go up to cover it.
A lot of stuff that we get rid of is so volatile up there, like we lose money on some things, like cardboard we're making a lot of money on.
I just wanted to make one point, Derek Adams, Environmental Affairs Coordinator. Is another aspect of this is we apply for a grant every year, the Sustainable Material Recovery Program, and we always get funding from that. And for a number of years, we were able to bank some of it because of the commodities market, because some things cost money and some things don't. And the issue is currently that one of the issues that we're facing right now is that Mass DEP wanted to see those funds spent down in order to make you eligible for the next year's round. So for the last 2 years, we've gone from $30,000 to $0, because the last thing I want to do is be ineligible for a grant because we're holding on to too much money. Plus, after COVID, the quantity that we've been getting up there has been significantly more than the past. In addition to the mattress, just another thing that went from $10 to $5. So, in considering raising the fee, we also have to consider that we don't have that buffer zone for that grant. We will be getting that grant money every year, but instead of having 40,000 in that, it's now 0. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. Because we do try to keep costs low, we try very hard. And part of the way of doing that is using some grant funds to supplement it every single year. And that option is reduced at this point.
Thank you, Carol.
I have one more probably dumb question. So as we're talking about the water pipes and how you have stainless steel pipes but a regular bolt, and how that keeps popping off, what is the cost? Can we just replace the bolts? Can we put stainless steel bolts on those? So then, like, instead of...
That would be really, really expensive. You need a big hole to get it.
So, okay, all right. So it's not just buy a new bolt that fits it and...
Not like
okay.
3.
Well, I wasn't thinking this, but like...
How about Gorilla Glue?
All right. Okay, so you're saying it's far less expensive to keep replacing this?
It is.
Fixing it?
Yeah. Well, the most of the pipes that are on, it's called AC pipe.
Okay.
It's a transite. It's asbestos concrete.
Okay.
They use asbestos in the concrete to hold together. So even that's a handling fee. So even when we take the pipe, we never take it out of the ground. We keep it in the ground because then you have to deal with the hazards.
What is it?
That's the pipe. It was very popular after they came up like World War II because they need steel for everything else. So they came up with this, and it's not a bad pipe inside because it doesn't hold, it doesn't break down. But it gets really soft and hunky, and when you have a high groundwater table, so that's why it's failing along.
All right, guys, there's your question.
And a lot of roots can grow through. A lot of roots can grow through them.
On the silver, yeah, the silver side, yeah.
But go ahead, Ted.
I love when you guys come, but it always makes me really depressed. Right? Like I love talking about this stuff. You know, I'm like your DPW champion, right? I'm the one that's always trying to find a way to talk about sidewalks and talk about roads and talk about water and all this other stuff, but there's no money.
It's no money.
And I guess the only good thing happening at the federal level is there's probably not going to be an EPA, so we don't have to worry about the challenges.
Right.
You know, just give that a couple more months and that'll just be gone. So one thing we can say, okay, something good happened. The world's going to blow up, it's something we have to have. But I still hold true to my previous statements, though, that I think if you want to move toward an environment of public trust, you want to move toward an environment where people feel like their tax dollars are going and being spent in the right places that we as a town and as a council and with you guys help, we need to continue to educate so that people see more from the budget, right? Because I think if somebody, it's just a mentality, right? When somebody looks out and they see, oh, the town's out here working on my sidewalk, oh, the town's out here working on my road, oh, the town's fixing my kid's school, the town's fixing where my kids play. It's a little switch goes off, right? And it says, oh, all right, that's my tax dollars. Where they don't see that, they don't get that same feel good with personnel. They don't get that same feel good with a lot of stuff in the budget. So, but when there's no money, there's no money, right? So we have to just continue to chip away at it. And I think show the public, yeah, you know what, a lot of these feel-good stories, like, yes, we did make investments in your roads and sidewalks. It may not be where we want it to be, but it's, yeah, we've made investments in water and sewer and all these other things, because people's basic expectations, right? I want to be able to have clean drinking water. I want to be able to have a road to drive on so I can go to work. I want my kids to walk to school. Like all these things we think of as basic needs, but they're so expensive. And we live in one of the most expensive states in the country. We're like in the top 5. And I just saw in the news that there is still a gigantic group of people leaving, even though we got people coming, we've got a lot of people leaving, and it's expense related. So we have to be really careful about what we charge people for stuff, because people are they're at a breaking point. They, you know.
I totally agree with you. What we grapple with in public works and use recent things is when the budget comes up, we're not the police department, so it was the SRF officers or the ambulance or the school department when they cut the Latin program or whatever. Our stuff it's not instantaneous. It's the slow things. The road starts going slowly over time. Our water quality has issues slowly. It doesn't. You're not going to see it. If you don't give a budget, it's not going to change on July 1st. It might be 4 or 5 years down the road when you start seeing it.
You have been a great advocate, Councilor Corey-Ledger, on that infrastructure. I think the gap I'd like to try to close with the public is you can't do the bleachers without people. I agree with you on your sentiments. I think that reflects a lot of folks. AI is not plowing our streets of ice and snow yet, and it won't be for a long time, right?
Thank God, yeah.
Well, maybe those Waymos will come in with plows someday. I mean, they do work pretty good, but I think you still need, personnel's capital. We talked about this many times, and I agree. I think the public seems to have this slightly higher animosity towards the personnel issue versus what they can see and feel and touch and see my tax dollars at work. But we also need people to do that work. I mean, when people see the DPW team, and one of the things that's rare about our team is a lot of our guys on our teams actually do the work, right? We actually really have paramedics that show up at your house, not a contracted service, right? So I think hopefully through this budget process this year, we can try to educate people a little more that, we want to do more work. We don't have any money, but we also need the people and they need some sort of balance.
No, I
know you understand it. It's tough to talk to people about that stuff.
We love building stuff.
Yeah.
We do.
We do a
really
lot
like
more
building
in-house
it.
than most towns.
Yeah.
Which is a point of pride, I think, particularly parks. Particularly the common, particularly the sidewalk work. I know you've seen it yourself, so.
Yeah, I mean, people, when they visit Franklin, they're always complimentary of our parks, of our common, of our buildings, right? Like, they do. They look at the playgrounds, they look at our sports fields, and they're like, my God, these are some of the best in the state. And that's a source.
Oh, they are the best.
It's a source of pride, right? It is. But then, last summer we had some issues because we had to let kids go that would have normally picked up the trash, right? So okay, so there's a real reality to these budget challenges, is what I'm saying. But I don't think, especially now at 9:30, I've only got 10 people left watching, and we spend more time grilling 2 people on ZBA than we're going to spend talking about the DPW.
That's a good point.
Right? And this stuff needs real leadership and needs real solutions and needs real money, and I don't know where it's all gonna come from. But I'm proud of you guys. I tell you that all the time, right? Text you and thank you all the time because I need it. But at the same time, we gotta start filling some of these holes, or we're gonna be in a really, really big problem in 5 years, right? Where we're like, okay, we've got major emergencies with roads and water lines and sewer lines and water containers, and you know, what if the state does come calling on that PFAS thing, or, you know, what we're gonna do is put our hands up and say, I'm sorry, we don't have the money. Well, that's not gonna fly, right? So we just gotta keep chipping away at it, and I think as we, in 2 weeks, when we do look at the capital free cash program, I know for me, a lot of that has to go to the things that you guys prioritize. It just has to. We're just at a point, and we can't look at some of these requests and say, yeah, that's a want, not a need. And that's gonna be very unpopular for all of us to have to look at our neighbors and our friends and colleagues and other committees and say, I'm sorry, but this just isn't the year for you to make that request to us. We've gotta put money in savings to try to hopefully get through this next cycle, and we also need to make some huge priorities to keep it. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for somehow making lemonade out of a couple of lousy lemons, and you know, appreciate all that you guys do.
Well, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually take issue with the comments that we have no solutions and that we don't have any money. In regards to, you know, I think it's important to be fiscally responsible, but at the same time, this council has a very obvious solution, which is to factor water capital expenses into its rates. And it's been a conscious effort by this council in the past not to fund those rates at the levels that are adequate to fund the DPW. You know, there are things like roads and sidewalks that, yes, they have to be funded by the general fund. But the enterprise fund is funded by water rates, sewer rates, stormwater fees, and those are all things that we have the ability and the choice to allocate money towards, and we're choosing not to. So I urge us to take a look in the mirror and think about what our priorities are, and it's actually a very fiscally responsible thing to actually look at the long-term investments. If we don't fund these things, what is the cost of that? Then we're pushing down the cost, multiplying it many years down the line by not funding some of these water improvements and sewer improvements. That's not fiscally responsible. So I actually urge the administrator and the DPW to actually work towards goal CSF 3.1A, factoring water capital expenses into rates. And DPW has my full support in terms of making sure that they can get these things funded. It might have to be gradual, it might not have to be as fast as we like, but I do think we need to make these improvements, so thank you. I do have some questions before I forget. This could be like rapid fire, like just a sentence for each question. You ready for this?
Okay.
Okay.
Try.
Could drainage for sidewalks be funded with stormwater fees?
Drainage for
You
sidewalks?
said that when
Yes.
you do the sidewalks, you need to put drainage equipment in there?
Yes.
So that can be funded by stormwater fees?
Yes.
Okay. Can trash bin fees legally be used to fund capping the landfill, or is it a separate account? Separate. And then the same thing for the recycling center fees, can they be used for capping the landfill?
We could use some of the fees to make the recycling center there, but the actual capping, probably not.
Okay. And what percentage of our, the question, is the town eligible for its own stormwater credits on its property? Is it utilizing all the conservation credit incentives it's eligible to receive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we actually have stormwater bins on our property that can get the credits? Okay, good to know. Is it possible for the recycling center to offer shredding services?
I guess
Typically, that's a service that comes in for a day or a week, and it was just, there's a number of different things that we look at that we could bring in. That is one. Typically, they reach out to me, and it just hasn't been in the budget, but that's something I can look at further and see if we can swing it for either this fiscal year or next fiscal year. But it's typically a third party that will come in for a day, sort of an event.
Like shredding.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know the senior center has it too, so don't step on their toes, but I was
Yeah.
just curious, if it was something that we
Something we can look
permanent.
at.
Is it possible to opt in for a smaller bin for trash, for a lower trash rate?
Yep, we have that already.
You have that already? Do people know about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can out-of-town people use the recycling center for a higher rate?
We never looked at that. I wouldn't think it would be, the one thing that we do is a reciprocal agreement for hazardous waste. So other town, like if you're moving out and you're, I don't know, Medfield, you can come over here, but our folks can go over there too. So we do that, we do charge a fee for that. But I'm not sure.
I think you would, we'd have to look into that a little closer. But I would say right now, with the capacity of where the station's at, it probably wouldn't work out from a volume, because I don't know how you'd say how many people would be let in. It'd almost be like, okay, 100 people. But I would say that when the town in the future considers the line item cap, and the vision was always to generate a state-of-the-art recycling center, that's something that can be analyzed when that project goes through for sure, and see if that's available.
Excellent. Is it possible to get picnic tables for the common?
Yeah.
It's just, there's no place to socialize, if everyone's with the benches, that'd be great, if it's something that makes, sense for the town. Could you advertise the community assistance program with the water bill?
I think we do one once a year.
Yeah.
It's, you can't put the whole thing in, because then the weight of the mailing goes out, but we do a, what is it called? Bill slip? Some other version, yeah. Some sort of spot slip. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. We do.
Congratulations, you survived the lightning round. I'm all set.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the only other thing I would say is, Max is correct. You can fund capital programs through water and sewer rates. The one clause I would say is I think we have raised water and sewer rates quite a bit the last several years because of the Beaver Street Interceptor, and water rates because of the cost of everything going up. I think that is a part of the story with the finances and why people feel the tightening of the belt, right? They're feeling it all at home with groceries, electricity, with everything. But then also water and sewer are going up, and they may be for good reasons, right? I mean, nobody wants to pay the sewer rate that's 5 times what they're paying now when we have a blown out pipe with not being able to flush toilets, right? That's a worse problem and more expensive. But it's still, for the average taxpayer, water rates are going up this fiscal year, coming up in FY27, and then after that, it stays stagnant. Sewer rates, I think, are going up for 2 more years to pay for the intersection. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Because I like to be challenged.
Okay.
Alright, so first thing was on your stormwater, okay? You referenced the Quincy example,
Yes.
but I looked at the EPA link, and it actually, for their civil penalty, it was $115,000. And that was because they were untreated, they had untreated sewage that was being discharged into the Boston Harbor, the Ponset River, and various other bodies of water. The $100 million that you were mentioning was the cost for the remedy Quincy is implementing to reduce the untreated sewage from entering the body of water mentioned. But at Finance Committee, at the FinCom meeting, it's my understanding that work at our current capacity and infrastructure, we're in a good position to support our town. So that really isn't an accurate comparison.
What Quincy was dealing with, what we took care of a long time ago, is the stormwater was combined with the sewers, so during high flood events, they would mix together, kind of what they had to do in Boston type thing, but it is all stormwater, but they were under a consent to do that. Our permit, they were dealing with sewer. If you look at the Cape, they're dealing with nitrogen. We're dealing with phosphorus with our permit. So we have to address it. It's a different issue. So like down the Cape, you see down the Cape, they're dealing with nitrogen issues because they're sending out too much nitrogen, they get too much algae blooms down there. That's what they're dealing with.
In the stormwater?
In the stormwater.
Okay.
So our stormwater, we're dealing with phosphorus. I'm just trying to say, we're getting behind there, and we don't wanna get fined, because they could fine us if they want to, and then they actually get to a point, they tell us how much money we have to spend and how we have to do it.
Okay, I just wanted to try to clarify
Sure.
this.
It's a good
Then,
point.
I know you touched on the stormwater fee. Please tell me you're not suggesting that we raise it to $350.
No,
Okay.
I am on record, you know, people like on social media, they call it like my fee, the rain fee. No, I'm just providing you the information. We fought that the whole way. Down in DC, EPA will tell you right up, we tell you what needs to be done. It's not our job to figure out how to fund it. Talk to MBO, talk to Congress. They're the ones to tell you how to fund it. So, no, I'm just saying,
Well,
the way
I
it's
saw
written.
that and I was like, oh no, because I was at the original meetings back in, I don't even know when, 2020, 21. And I was at that like a lot.
Yep.
So I was like, and everyone's like, it's gonna be minimal, okay. And then I see 350, I'm like, that's far from me.
I think it's asinine, and I'll tell you that, because
Well, I think I should get a credit and everybody else in this town should get a credit when we flood and we store the stormwater in our basements. Because mine didn't go out into any pervious area, it was on my floor. So where's my credit? I have to call you.
I'll make one point for the consent decree in Quincy versus Franklin. I would just say it kind of all ties together where the 350, which is an average for the single family home, frankly, would cover the amount of work that we would have needed to do to be in one, essentially 100% complete compliance with just the 5-year plan. This is really a 20-year plan with just that first 5-year chunk. So in a lot of ways, with Director from Jamie and Brutus and a collaborative effort from everybody, in a lot of ways, my job and our job is to make sure the town doesn't get sued. I'm very confident that the work that we do is sufficient enough where the EPA happen to come down and say, crack open the books, show us what you're doing, how much, and then I say, we have this pot of money, this is the work we're doing, it's literally everything we can do. I'm confident that we're in good shape. But on paper, when we submit our annual report, they look at the PCP that we submitted 5 years ago. That was our plan, they said, we're gonna do this. We're not collecting the revenue to complete that work. But I still am confident that we're doing everything we can where if they came in, that we would not be in a situation that another community is in. But that's where those two things got tied together.
Do we still have a stormwater subcommittee, just curious?
No.
no.
Are we doing one or no? All right, so the next might not be as big. Where am I going? The phosphorus plant. So you're saying it's 30 million to implement the 5-year plan. That's what we're in right now, right?
We're at year 8 right now. There's a lot, I know it's confusing, there's a lot of different timelines that they give us to do.
So, but is it 30 million just for that first 5 years, or?
Correct, that's what we would have needed to spend, I think it was like approximately 4.75 million for 5 consecutive years, which that funding would have largely gone to new construction projects, which would have opened up a whole other can of worms. Do we have the land, do we have the space? So that money would have been allocated to that. We collect just over $1 million, which is awesome and great, and I think we're doing a really good job sweeping the roads and cleaning the catch basins and all of that, but that's where the disconnect comes in.
Okay.
So each year, we're about $4 million behind, to use generalized round numbers.
So is it almost like 30 million for every 5 years is basically what it rounds out to be?
I know it's not a game, but this is the fun game we have to play with the EPA, because every 5 years they issue us a new permit, and I don't know if they're gonna, it's been two years we're waiting to get the report that they were supposed to, the new rules and regulations.
Then let's hope they get taken away.
We'll hope it at least just stays what it is right now, and they don't get more aggressive. They might say, you need to test all the outfalls for caffeine. I don't know. Like, we have to wait to see what they're bringing us for the future.
Okay, then, one more little question, and then 2 little statements. This page right here, okay? I'm trying to understand, so if I go down to the bottom with the 20 grand, we just go with the bottom one. We have 2495.3 pounds of phosphorus
Yes, if you want a quick visual for that, basically why phosphorus is a big reason for us is the leaves fall on the road, the cars drive over the leaves, the rain comes, it washes the leaves into the catch basins on the sides of the road. When additional rain comes, think of it as tea. Basically those leaves leach phosphorus. And then that phosphorus eventually gets discharged into the environment. That's what the EPA is telling us what we need to remove to reduce algae blooms in the Charles River.
They want us to remove something that naturally occurs.
That is correct.
I'm on record telling we could rake the state bars.
But-
We get credit for that, we wouldn't.
But now on this slide, so if I'm correct, we already take out 362.8. So by 20 years, we're supposed to have removed an additional 2132.5. Is that the way I'm reading this? Like, that's what we still have to figure out how to get rid of?
That is a gap.
Yeah.
The ultimate end goal is the 2,132.5 pounds, and we're not hitting our targets for that, because that
We
means the
need to get a
construction.
lot of artificial trees.
What they like to see is the detention basin is what they like to see. So the detention basin is a shallow bowl that collects the stormwater. It gives it an area for the water to bring it back into the ground. Any overflow does overflow, but that's what they want to see. And that does tie into our water program because we have wells. So we do want the water to stay here instead of going to a river, which goes to a river, which goes to the Charles River. So it does make sense that, and I do agree with Bruce, the timeline is rather aggressive.
Okay. Now, a couple more questions, very, very easy. One, with the stormwater process, I don't know if anybody else would be interested, but can I get a tour to see how you do it? Just so I have a better understanding, because I get what you're saying, but visuals work better for me.
Sure.
Perfect, I will email you. I wanted to touch on roads, and I know I said this before, and I didn't say it as a councilor, I said it as a resident. But many moons ago, excise tax was collected specifically for roads. Somewhere along the line, everybody changed that, not just in Franklin, just like everywhere. Why can't we have the excise tax be specifically for like road and sidewalk maintenance?
Because you bring in, so I know Mr. DeRico is a big fan of this, and I know Joel has been lobbying me and Jeff Roy for many years for the state to raise the excise tax, right? So the state has to raise the excise tax in order to bring in more revenue to go towards roads. In terms of the $6 million in excise tax we have, I don't ever believe that was the case, because there's never been, in my 10 years here, plus years, and I can't speak to the early 2000s when Jeff was TA or.
It was
Hold
before,
on.
definitely before you.
Well, then the excise tax, if it was 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it was probably $3 million in excise tax money, or whatever, whatever, $6 million today, right? So if you go back 20 years, I'm guessing, it was maybe only 2 or 3 million. I think that was a metaphor the previous town manager said as a cause and effect, but it never really, it's not like the town of Franklin ever had $2 or $3 million in its budget. I don't think the town of Franklin ever had $1 million in its actual operating budget towards road maintenance. The overwhelming majority of road work that's been done in town has been through Chapter 90 money, through the state allocation. We've been extremely aggressive with grants and going out to MassWorks grants, like the Grove Street project is a great example of that. There is definitely a lot of mitigation money put forth during planning board decisions. I think $1 million of the cannabis money we got maybe 6 years ago from host community agreements went towards roads. So it's always been this patchwork. I would need to dig back in the records, or maybe Mr. DeRico could send me an email. I don't ever recall, I could be wrong, but at least in the 10 or 15 years of history that I'm pretty familiar with in Franklin, we've never had, there's never been. What we did do, and Councilor DeLorco reminds this, is hotel tax money was usually left off budget for many years. And then whatever money the state distributed to us, the council would always approve the hotel revenue for that year towards roads. And that was the case up until the pandemic.
I mean, yeah, I don't know
So
about.
the hotel tax is true, we did use that money for roads, but I don't think the excise tax was exclusively dedicated towards roads. It's always been a local receipt general fund appropriation.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't know what, Joe DeRico was saying. I'm going by, honestly, when my mom was alive, this is something that she dealt with when she was on council and everything like that.
When was that?
I don't know. I was
80s,
I was a
90s?
teenager.
Well, just
I
give me a
was about-
ballpark.
I don't know, I was a teenager.
90s?
Maybe early 90s.
Okay, so that may have been the message that Wolfgang or somebody gave back then and said, well, you know, we're making $1 million in excise tax money, we put it towards roads.
So I was.
But it has never been a dollar for dollar. It's not like the excise tax. So if you did that today, right? So say you took the 6 million in excise tax money and say the council said, we want to dedicate that 6 million exclusively to roads, right? You would make a big dent in this, but you'd have to cut $6 million worth of services elsewhere to go pay for this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna take an educated guess, that's gonna be pretty hard. So at this point, it is what it is. And now in the budget proposal coming up in FY '27, this is actually pathetic. But I think we have in the budget model $175,000 of town tax money that goes towards road and sidewalk maintenance and construction. That doesn't even pay one road. That maybe gets you some small projects on sidewalks, maybe some chip seal contract. Crack, it gets you almost nothing. A few years ago, we did have $600,000 in the budget to help supplement the state chapter 90 money, but all that roads money's been cut in the last couple of years from obviously the sale of override. So, you know, I mean, at some point you have to make choices, and we've cut, you know, the DPW across the board with tree trimming, crosswalk painting, summer help, trash cans, trash pickup. I mean, it's just been across the board. Consultants, engineering designs, I mean, we've pretty much, maintenance, I mean, so, you know, I don't know what, you know, what happened back in the 90s, but I think, you know, that was 30 or 40 years ago. It's just not the reality.
I just was wondering if it's something that we could look into.
You could, and I'm just saying, like, we collect about 6 million a year in excise tax now. You'd have to cut 6 million somewhere else and put it toward roads.
And then just the last statement, and only because you're sitting here and it has nothing to do with your presentation. We're supposed to get a lot of snow, 12 to 18 inches. And I promised, I replied to Brutus's email because we're having the parking issue, and they had, what, 30, what did you say, 35?
They're about 35 to 40.
Cars that are still parking on the road. So I think that we either A, need to just consider doing a full-on ban again, or if you're a second-time offender, it's like $100 ticket, because at this point, you're costing the town money when they have to deal with those cars that are on the road that are not supposed to be. Somebody's gonna get hurt, or property's gonna end up getting damaged because the plow truck's gonna go down. With that kind of snow, they might not even see a car because it could just look like a pile of snow, and they're gonna get hit. So we're gonna either slam those tickets and get an increase, or we go on to a full-on ban, because if you can't follow the rules, then you will suffer the consequences.
Sounds good to me.
Sorry, if I can follow up.
Go ahead.
Do we have a way to, send out, sorry?
Oh, God, I think I
to
know
send
where you're
out-
going.
Yeah, to send out, you know, an alert to.
A robocall or something?
Robocall or something.
So, all right,
As a
so,
reminder.
yes, robocalls are a divisive issue. We will send out as many robocalls as you guys want. Here's the problem with robocalls. You will get 20 times more complaints, and we actually see after every robocall, we find dozens of people say, I don't want this, why am I on this, get me off. And the chiefs and Brutus and probably the emergency response folks, you know, with water and sewer will tell you, especially the chiefs, that you don't want to keep losing people off the robocall lists. And I know it sounds crazy. I know But I'm just telling you, we all get complaints after every robocall. If there was a bank robbery, get me off the list, I don't wanna get your calls anymore. I mean, people, I don't know how to explain it. We hear from people that complain about communication. We have a very good system we use, which all of us work the same, the schools use the same system. It's worked very well. People hate them. And then I don't know where the delta is on stuff, but if you guys want to promote and give us the backing and tell us you want us to give more robocall,
It just feels like it's cheaper to send out a notice when we're aware of a snowstorm.
Yeah.
To say,
No, I agree, I thought of that earlier.
yeah, like,
To be honest
hey, we're
with you.
expecting
We
12 to
also-
18 inches, just, reminder of parking it. Or you don't even have to necessarily remind them.
Yeah.
Great.
It is,
Just,
parking
hey,
being effect.
notice there's gonna be 1.5 feet of snow this week.
I always found it to be valuable.
Well, the communications director will have to help with some of this. I mean, I will say capacity is a problem in my office. The police usually put that out too, the fire department, and the DPW puts it on their Facebook page. I don't think it's much more than some just honest complacency from people. I don't think it's there, but I mean, when's the storm coming?
Sunday to
Sunday to
Monday.
Monday.
During
And
the,
they're looking 12 to 18
all right,
inches.
well, I'll talk to the chief. I'll talk to Chief Lynch and just see if he can put out a message or work with us on what he wants to do and try to get out the parking ban a little bit earlier, and we'll give it a shot.
I mean, real quickly,
I'm fine with that.
no, real quickly, I think you all know, like, the message I used to put up. A lot of people love them. And that's why I tried to make them a little more tolerable, because we were getting so much pushback about it. But Jamie's right, we get a lot of pushback. So kind of what we've been operating under, if it's a true emergency, that's when we're sending stuff out. 18 inches of snow, that's more of an emergency. Last week was about the barrels, the day pickup. I mean, it's not really an emergency. If you put your barrel out, you're gonna pick up, that you're just gonna know the next day and word of mouth's gonna go. So that's why I didn't feel it was necessary. But usually a lot of my messages are tied in with other things. The governor will declare a state of emergency, stay off the road. We go out there, I talk to the police chief and fire chief. They like when I do the messages, so I would go with them.
We'll talk to the chief. I'm happy to do it.
And
I'm not
whatever you
against
guys
it at all.
want.
I would love to do
Can
robocalls
the
all
same
the
system send
time.
a text message? Do we have that capability?
Yes,
Text
but
message. Very
how we
limited.
get the list of residents is also a different thing. Some of it is sourced through we pay for a contract through Regroup that goes to essentially cable subscribers to another third party who buys it from them, and then we get that list. And that's about 80% of the populace in town. But you only get that update once a year. And then we have a self-subscriber system. So the text messages don't really go as far. You have to subscribe yourself to get the text messages. And for years, when we had a communications staff before, myself, Amy, and others, the police, DPW, we have done a lot of outreach. Unfortunately, some of it's getting lost, I think, in a little bit of the white noise, but Steve, you've dealt with this a lot too. I mean, it's been a challenge to get people to subscribe to some of this stuff.
And plus, the kids up at Dean, they're not gonna get notified either, and I bet you that there's a lot of those, that whole area there probably has a lot of
But
cars
I
on
do
the
think
street.
we have to look at increasing the tickets and stuff, because there's a lot of repeat offenders, because the bottom line is this: it's costing them money with the DPW trying to get around the cars and not knock them over. And we already know you're getting yelled at everybody's mailbox, you don't need to be yelled at about the vehicles, alright? And then we have to pay for the police to go out and do the tickets.
Yeah.
So with a town that's budget struggling and trying to save money, and you're costing us money by doing these things, it's time to put an end to it. $25 first offense, after that it's 100, third time it's towed, you can get it out of the impound yard.
Yeah.
Like, we're not playing anymore, it's not a game.
Sure.
And I think we need to have a discussion, so it's something that we can put in, I don't want a resolution, a bylaw. I'm tired, I don't really know what it
So
would fall under.
you do need a bylaw.
You need
So
a
it's-
bylaw.
So there'll be just to give you a tip, there will be a fee. Ambulance receipts usually get upped every year. I just noticed the fire chief the other day about this. There are a couple of other tweaks to some fees through our budget meetings that some staff need to deal with costs, like the passport photo, like just a couple of small things. I think the clerk had a couple things, the Board of Health, like some very odds and ends. The council did a whole fees bylaw last year of an upgrade of the whole system. And I was gonna say to y'all, if you want to upgrade the police ones and You know, I will tell you, it's like the old, you know, the joke by Chris Rock, you know, that said years ago, with anything infamous, if you wanna stop people killing each other, charge people $10,000 for a bullet. So if you really wanna get out there and you wanna stop it, charge people $10,000 for a hit, and they will get the message. So if you hit them in the pocket, not $100, that won't matter. People will pay.
People pay.
People will pay $100.
Matter to me.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
But-
me too.
And that's
but-
why we need to have a discussion so we can actually
Right.
come to a determination. I'm just throwing it out there because right now it's fine.
The fine, yeah. So we are packaging a bylaw to come for you guys for budget season, to look at all those, and you guys can amend it with, because I know Councilor Griffith brought it up, I think, too,
Yeah.
at one of the meetings a couple of weeks ago, and so we've been talking about the staff, and we're trying to mirror that with the budget cycle, so that you can assume, by the way, increased revenue in the budget, to help offset some of the town's costs, right? I figured that would be a worthwhile conversation, so we are working on that, and appreciate the suggestion.
Besides the fees, one thing we've kind of seen is the actual language. Like, we can only give a ticket out between 1 and 5. It should be a little longer, and then, you know, actually during the event. You follow me? That's the only window we can do it, so.
Okay, language change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good point. That's a good point. You can put that in, right, Jamie?
Yeah. Yeah.
I yield the floor.
Thank you. All right, I will be quick. Just this question, this isn't us so much, but a few years ago, they passed that, like, state infrastructure, federal infrastructure bill, right? Did we see any of that money? You know, it's like it's supposed to improve infrastructure.
Yeah, through the SRF, the ARP.
So there was one project on Grove Street that qualified, we did get some money through that, but to be honest with you, we qualified for very little. A lot of those infrastructure improvements are towards major cities, public transit, bridges, roads, with far greater problems. So when they score those grants, they're gonna score it based on condition. I hate to say it, but our infrastructure is exponentially better than most places in the country. So we didn't qualify for the vast majority of those. Is that a decent summary?
Yeah, and then I would also add to, a lot of the BIL, bipartisan infrastructure bill, went through, in Massachusetts at least, went through the SRF program. Which is why for Beaver Street, you sort of the Biden sign that said, you know, funded by it. So we did benefit through that, and they were able to, you know, boost up.
Fund more projects.
Fund more projects. But that's gone away now.
I was curious about it, I'm sure other people were curious about it. Trash and recycling, the rates, are they, do you know what they are off the top of your head? How much we pay?
For what, per quarter or per?
No, like the tonnage, like how much do we pay? Because it used to always be that like recycling was a lot cheaper than trash, which is why we wanted to push people towards more recycling. How is it now?
So the trash rate, I believe, is 9207. I can verify that for you, but it's close to
use that.
100 tons per ton.
Relative.
And recycling is less than that, but the recycling does fluctuate month to month as trash does, based on not only, trash is a fixed rate per year basis, and then, you know, depends on how much we're throwing away, or collectively we're throwing away. Recycling follows a complex formula that is kept rather opaque from the communities. So essentially, Waste Management owns the materials recovery facility, and then they get not only our community but everybody else's, and then they go to the market and they say who's going to pay this for that, who's going to pay this for that, and then it's the rate that we receive is based on the commodities market. So, but it is less than trash. Yes.
I will say in my experience here though, is that at one time we were actually getting money for the recycling, and then during COVID, they actually, recycling costs more to get rid of the trash. And that place up in New Hampshire, they stopped recycling. They just burned everything, okay? You can't do that in Massachusetts because we're required to recycle, but but we're actually lower now than it was before.
To give one more perspective, sorry, on average, it's between 20 and 25,000 per month for a recycling invoice that we get from Recycle America, and it's approximately 50 to 55,000 per month for the bill for the invoice from Wheeler in waste stations.
So my point, more to the public, you guys understand this already, is that if we recycle more, the more you recycle, I mean, it's not only good for the environment, right, but the less the town, the less we all pay in our fee. So that's another good reason why, to try to recycle.
We have one of, I said it before, just so you know, we have one of the highest recycling rates in Massachusetts. Look at Franklin, yeah, we're in the top tier.
And it's scored extraordinarily high on our citizen satisfaction survey.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're happy about something.
That's it.
10
They're
years
actually
on
happy about
recycling.
everything according to the survey.
Maybe that helps, who knows?
Yeah.
My last thing is just a comment. So over at least a couple of years here and there, as a resident, I've had questions about water. Anytime I've gone down to the town council, I can say something about this. Anytime I've needed something, I've gone to Doug for questions, and he's just like amazing as far as getting back to me. I'm sure other residents as well. I mean, I wasn't at the town council. I mean, he just answered my questions and get back to me in email, and so just wanted to give kudos to Doug, and I'm sure others on the staff are similar. So
It's a great team. It really is. Thank you.
yeah, that's it.
That's it. Oh, well. So, I got nothing at 10:30. Good night, I really don't know. You guys do a good job. I know, I'm kind of, we're heroes right now, because I kept the airport open, you plowed the streets, so we're all heroes. Right, we're all heroes. The airport wasn't shut down, I look great. I look like an idiot after, well, this storm coming up, as you know, this storm coming up, I mean, we're still working out, the repairs, probably, you know what I mean, the repairs have to get done before Sunday. Like, I could have worked tonight if I wanted to. So, I mean, we're working around the clock just to get ready for this next storm. So I know what you guys do. You do a lot. And that's just the repair shop. That's not counting the water departments out. You see 5 or 6 guys out on the water department, but the rest of the guys are down the other end of town doing something too. So, I mean, you guys are always doing something. So, it's like a city. You're a city within yourself, because you got to take care of everything. And I understand that. That's what I kind of do too. So, you guys do a good job. It's a tough job. It's tough to get workers. There's no workers out there no more. Nobody wants to do this anymore. That's the big challenge. So, that's it. You guys do a good job. It's 10 o'clock. Let's
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, Max, I couldn't take you on he actually called for snowplow. I was going to take him up, but this last one wasn't a good one. We weren't supposed to get 3 inches, we got 6. I don't know the way it's
And if you want to really get them moving, just hit them with the plow. Just hit them. That's what I would. Not the people.
You heard it. You heard it.
They'll move it. They'll move it.
Hit them, find them.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, guys.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. By the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.